In this movie, we're going to upgrade the GCC toolchain for use with Eclipse on a Mac. Here I have Eclipse installed on this Mac, and I've found that the GCC version is not sufficient to support the latest C++ standard, C++ 11. You notice here that the GCC version is 4.2.1, and this class uses C++ 11 features, so we'll need a GCC of at least 4.7.0 for its C++ 11 support. As of the time that I'm recording this, C++ 11 is new and GCC 4.7 is new, so we're going to install 4.7.0 so that it has support for the new C++ features. Here I have the web page of High Performance Computing, which is a port of GCC that works on a Mac. And it's hosted at sourceforge.net, and the URL is hpc.sourceforge.net. And we'll see here that the latest version is GCC 4.7, and you're free to use the latest version, whatever that is. And you'll notice under binaries, we see gcc lion.tar.gz. There's another one, gfortran-lion.tar.gz, and that's only Fortran. That does not include C++. There's also versions down here for Snow Leopard. So if you're running Snow Leopard and you're not running Lion, then you'll want to install that Snow Leopard version. I'm running Lion on this Mac, and so I've already downloaded GCC Lion, and I have that here in my downloads folder. I'm just going to double click on it and let OS X open the archive. And here we have a folder that includes the compiler tools. And so under this USR and under local, you'll see there's our compiler tools. We have bin, include, lib, libexec, and share. And so that's all the GCC toolchain. So I'm going to take this local folder and I'm actually going to rename it. And I'm going to call it HPC-GCC. And you want to do that with the local folder. You don't want to rename the user folder. And I'm just going to drag it into my home directory. And there it is. It's going to be whatever your home directory is on your Mac. So you drag it into your home folder. And there I've selected my home folder, and you see I have a folder there called HPC-GCC, and when I click on it, it's got that bin, include, lib, libexec, all those folders inside of it. So it's real important that it be named that and that it be there because we're going to use that location as we set the preferences in Eclipse. Now I'm going to go back over here to my download folder, and I'm just going to delete this USR folder. And now I'm going to come back into Eclipse, and then I'm going to select my working project and right-click and select Properties. So this is setting the properties of the working project. You see it says Properties for Working. This is not the properties for the entire Eclipse application. So under C++ build here, C and C++ build, you'll notice something called environment. And here in the environment, we're going to add a few environment variables. And this will tell Eclipse where to find the tool chain so that it'll use the correct version of GCC and leave the version alone that Xcode wants. Because Xcode still depends on that. It still needs to be there for your Xcode to work. You can't delete it. You're still going to be depending on the other tools that Xcode has. You need to leave Xcode alone. And yet we've installed this other version of GCC in our home directory, and we want to use that for compiling in Eclipse. Under Configuration, I'm going to select All Configurations. And then I'm going to select Add. I'm going to type cpath, C-P-A-T-H. And then under Value, I'm going to put a $sign and a left curly bracket and the word home, all in caps, and a right curly bracket. Instead, you can select variables, and you can come down here and you can find home and click on it and press OK, and you get the same thing. That tells it that it's under my home directory, whatever that's called. And in my case, it's that Bill Weinman directory that we saw. And I'm going to press slash and HPC-GCC because that's what we named the folder. And then another slash and include. Now, if you're not familiar with file name paths in Unix or in OS X, these are forward slashes. These are not backslashes. These are just the slash key, which is right next to the shift key on your keyboard without shift pressed or anything like that. Now I'll press OK, and I'm going to do a couple more of these. The next one is called library path. And you'll notice that there's an underscore there, library underscore path. And I'm going to select variables again and grab that home variable. And there it is. And press slash and HPC-GCC/lib, lib. And press OK. So we have library path set. and we have cPath set. Now we're going to set one more. This is the path variable, and this one's got a little bit of a rigmarole to it. So here's how it goes. It's called path, and there's already a path variable set, although it doesn't show up there. After we set it, we're going to notice that what we put here gets added to the end. And we're going to need to come back in and edit it and move it to the beginning because it needs to be at the beginning. So I'm going to go here under value, and I'm going to select variables again, and I'm going to find our little home and double click on that and say /HPC GCC /bin, B-I-N. Now, when I say OK, you'll notice that we look at what path has, and it's all this other stuff. And if I press edit over here, you'll see that what I added actually went all the way to the end of the variable. So I need to select that. I'm holding down the shift key and pressing the left arrow. I press the right arrow to get to the end, and I'm holding down the shift key and pressing the left arrow, and I'm coming all the way back here, and I'm taking the colon as well. You'll notice there's a colon at the end of SBin, and then there's the $home. So I'm taking that colon as well, and I'm pressing Command X to cut, because then I'm going to paste. And I press the up arrow, and that'll take me to the beginning, and I'm going to press a colon, and then my left arrow to go before the colon, and then I'm going to press Command V to paste. And then I need to go all the way back to the beginning and take that first colon out again. So I'll select that and hit the delete key. And now what we have is we have $home, close curly brace, /HPC-GCC/BIN, and then there's a colon, and then the other stuff that was already in the variable, starting with the /USR/bin. It's really important that it look like this, that it has this home HPC GCC bin at the beginning and not at the end of the variable. So I'm going to press OK, and we see that we have that correct right there. Now I'm going to press the apply button over here, and that applies it. I'm going to go back over here to C build, and then down here to settings. So under settings, you see we have tool settings selected at the left here, and these are settings for all of our tools. And we have the C++ linker, the GCC assembler, and then we have the C++ compiler and the C compiler. And those are the ones that we're interested in. And if I select the GCC C++ compiler, you'll notice that it has all of these options down there. And if I come down here to miscellaneous, I'm going to add an option here. I'm going to put in a space at the end of this list of options, and I'm going to say -std, it's an abbreviation for the word standard, equals, all lowercase, C++11, so 2 ones. So there's a letter C, 2 plus symbols, and 2 number ones. -standard equals C++11. And now you'll notice if I come back up here and click on GCC C++ compiler, you'll see that there's that option at the end. So that's what I wanted to accomplish. You can't edit that here. You need to edit that under miscellaneous. I'm going to do the same thing under the C compiler. This is GCC C compiler, and you'll notice that all the options are there. If I come down here under miscellaneous, I'm going to add the options for the latest version of the C standard, which is also C11. So this is -std equals GNU 11. So that's the C11 standard with the GNU extensions. So there's one more thing we need to do here. We need to go in here to the run and debug settings. And that's right over here under C++ General down here, run/debug settings. And our launch configuration for our working project, we're going to go ahead and edit that. So I select working and I press edit, and I come in here and there's a couple of things we want to do. One, I want to come over here to arguments, and I just want to put in some arguments because we'll use these occasionally. So under our program arguments, I'm going to type the words for 1 space 2 space 3, like that. And it's just as if you run something at the command line and it's got 3 arguments after it. So it's like you type your command and then you type a 1 and a 2 and a 3 on the command line. That provides it that environment. And then I'm going to select the environment tab, and we're going to add an environment variable. Because we're running a C compiler that's not the default C compiler that's installed in the operating system, we need to tell it where to find its libraries, because it's not going to find the right libraries in the normal place. In fact, it will find libraries in the normal place, but they'll be the wrong libraries. And so we want to make sure that it finds the right libraries. So we just have to add a variable to the environment here. This is for the runtime environment. The other variables that we added before, those were for the compile time environment. These are for the runtime environment. I have environment selected, and I'm going to press new, and I'm going to name this variable DYLD underscore library underscore path, PATH. And if I select variables here, I'll find one called envvar because there isn't one that's called home. And under argument, I'm going to type the word home all in caps. Press OK. And I get this envvar : home thing like that. And that's exactly what you want. So if you have that, great. If not, you can just type it here and it'll work just fine. And /HPC-GCC/LIB. And say OK. And there we have DYLD underscore library underscore path and the value. So I'm going to press the OK button and press the OK button again. And at this point, we should have the correct version of our compiler installed. So I can just come up here and I can press the Run Working button and it'll rebuild it. And there it is, GCC version 4.7.0, version string 4.7.0. We now have a sufficient version of GCC. If you're doing this at some point in the future, you may have a later version of GCC. As long as it's 4.7.0 or later, you should be fine. We're going to do one more thing to test this. I'm going to go ahead and put this in full screen mode so you can see this entire file. And I'm going to select all of this stuff here. This only works in C++11. And I'm going to uncomment it by pressing Command and the / key. And that's just a little shortcut inside of Eclipse that takes those comment markers out from the beginning. So now it should look like this. And I'm going to press Command S to save. And I'm going to minimize it again by double tapping on the title there. And I'm going to press Run. And now you'll see it also says 1, 2, 3. So what it did, I'm going to maximize this again so you can see it, is it came out here and it creates a C++ vector, which is like an array. And it uses this feature here, the for each version of the for loop, which is not a C construct that existed before C++11. It's also using this initializer list, which is another C++11 feature. So it's using some C++11 features, and it is working. Now, one final thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this file so that we're in a nice working state as we start our next exercise. And I'm just going to select it and press the delete key here on my Mac keyboard. Or you can just right-click and select delete and say OK. And because we were using a copy, we still have it up here in the Chapter 2 folder, but it's now deleted from our working project. So in using Eclipse in this course, we have the C++ Essential Training Project, and that's just holding all the exercise files. We want to actually use an exercise file. We select that, we copy it, we paste it into working, and we use it down there. So now you have a working Eclipse with the latest GCC installed and running on your Mac.